Morbius is just about a week away at this point, and things honestly could not be any worse at this point, because not only is the film getting absolutely terrible reviews, people saying it's boring and not great, well, it's actually worse than that, because, well, there's stuff you've probably already seen already over the past couple days about basically all the Spider-Man connections being removed from this film, and now literally the director's gone on Twitter and like done an interview where he spoiled half the stuff about the movie, and I don't even know, because I was going to make a video about the whole Spider-Man connections thing a couple days ago, but I'm honestly glad I waited, because now more stuff has come out with all that stuff, and it's kind of, there's some stuff here that's kind of conflicting, so it's kind of hard to tell, like, what would you actually consider spoilers and what would you not? So this first part of the video is kind of going to be talking about that Spider-Man news that you've probably heard by now that's been out for a couple days. And that's the non-spoiler stuff. And then we'll get into more of what the director revealed and kind of clarified in that interview about this film, which then also connects to the leaked post-credit scenes as well, which we'll talk about too. So if you just want to hear the first part that's non-spoiler, then I will give a spoiler warning when we get into spoiler stuff. But for now, let's talk about this, because again, this is the stuff that's been out for a couple days now. Super reliable sources have been saying that all the Spider-Man connections from this film have been removed for the final cut and didn't make it into the movie. Now, that doesn't make sense at all, because that's literally how Sony has been promoting this movie, is with these Spider-Man references, like with that poster of Spider-Man in the background, with Oscorp and Michael Keaton's Vulture and stuff like that, but now they're not even in the movie at all. The official quote says, "The scenes that were cut allegedly include a shot of Morbius walking past a poster of Spider-Man with the word murderer painted over it, and a newspaper headline, which we know is the Daily Bugle one, that hinted at the presence of Rhino and Black Cat. It also appears that Michael Keaton's role as Adrian Toome's Vulture has been greatly reduced and now only exists in a post-credit scene." What is Sony doing over there? Like, I honestly don't know how to explain this. Because first of all, this just sucks if this actually ends up being true, which I have a feeling it actually will be, because a lot of people aren't even looking forward to Morbius for Morbius. A lot of people were just excited for all these Spider-Man connections, seeing all this stuff, especially considering that, maybe you would finally give us some clarity about Sony's Spider-Man universe that they're creating with Venom and now Morbius and Kraven the Hunter and Madam Web and all that stuff, because the things in this movie that we've seen in the trailers and stuff are super confusing and conflicting. Like, you've got the Daily Bugle using the same logo from the Raimi movies, and then you've got the Oscorp building using the same logo from the Amazing Spider-Man films, and then you've got the MCU Vulture in here. So we were hoping that kind of this film would explain what's going on here, especially post Spider-Man No Way Home, but now the fact that that's all been ripped out of there, it just makes like no sense at all. Especially considering that that's been the main thing that has been selling this movie. This is the big thing that everybody's been talking about throughout all these trailers, is all the big Spider-Man connections. So, personally, I'm still excited for this movie. Like, I'm still looking forward to actually seeing Morbius itself. But it's still upsetting and disappointing because basically Sony lied to us. And it's kind of a fraud that they were trying to sell us this movie with all this Spider-Man stuff that isn't even going to be in the film. Especially with that whole Michael Keaton thing, because he was the big reveal at the end of the first trailer and has been a big highlight of other trailers. Like, for example, literally this last trailer, the final trailer for the movie, not only did Michael Keaton play a big role in that trailer, he literally had a voiceover there, like, making it seem that he has a pretty substantial role in the film, and now he basically is not even in the movie at all until the post-credit scene. Which, like I said, of course, really sucks, because, like, Michael Keaton's Vulture, that was one of the things I was most excited to see in this film. And now we're not going to see him until the post-credit scene, which, for all I know, this movie could still be good, even without the Spider-Man stuff, but it's just the fact that they basically promised us that, and now we're not going to give us it. So, there's just so much confusion going on with Morbius. Like, for example, Spider-Man, especially since you have that mural of Spider-Man in the film, or apparently not in the film anymore, the question is, who's the Spider-Man in this universe? Of course, a lot of people have been theorizing, including myself. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I really want Andrew Garfield to be the Spider-Man of this universe with Venom and Morbius and all this other projects coming. But maybe not. Because the same scooper that was saying that all these Spider-Man connections have been taken out, My Time to Shine Hello on Twitter, who you probably know at this point, super reliable inside source leaker, scooper, whatever you want to call her, was asked, okay, so if it doesn't take place in the same universe as Venom, or like if it doesn't have all these Spider-Man connections, what universe does it take place in? To which she replied by saying, its own. So Morbius taking place in its own universe is just insane, because the director has said that there is a Spider-Man in this universe, but it's kind of like saying that like every universe has its own spider totem, I think is what he specifically said, but it doesn't mean that it's an actor that we have already seen or ever will see. So anyway, let's move on to this actual interview with director Daniel Espinosa, because he does have some more clarifications for what's going on with this film, where it takes place, all these characters and all that stuff going on here. And the first couple things here are not like spoilery at all, at least in my opinion. So we'll talk about him here first. So he did an interview with Cinema Blend, who of course was asking him a whole bunch of these questions, specifically for kind of answers to all the recent scoops of all the Spider-Man stuff being taken out here. So he was asked what universe this takes place in, to which he responded, Morbius lives in the same universe as Venom. This is the universe we saw Venom exit at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage and return to at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. So right there, already debunking the other claim that this is in its own universe. So it's the same universe as Venom, which of course makes sense. That's what we've kind of been theorizing about this whole time, that Sony is doing their own connected cinematic universe with these Sony Spider-Man characters, which is great. I mean, we literally had a reference to Venom in the film, so makes sense. Now, as for the Spider-Man thing, he said, it is my understanding that audiences will discover the answer soon. When he was asked about which Spider-Man is in the Morbius Venom universe, that was his answer. So I'm not sure what he means when he says that we'll discover the answer soon. Does that mean we're going to get to see a Spider-Man in Morbius? Is that when we're getting our answer? Or is it going to be like some sort of announcement shortly after the release of Morbius? I don't know, but apparently we're going to be finding out soon. And again, I'm really hoping that it's going to end up being Andrew Garfield. But now moving on to Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture. Because one of the next questions that Cinema Blend asked Daniel Espinosa was, who we saw in your Morbius trailers, is Michael Keaton playing the same Adrian Toomes Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming? To which he responded, yes. Not only did he say yes, but he actually goes more in depth here about how this actually works. Because if it's the same MCU Vulture, how is he now in the same universe as Morbius and Venom? Well, this is what he had to say. At the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage and Spider-Man No Way Home, and in No Way Home itself, it is clearly established that it is possible for characters to transfer from one multiverse to another. The events of No Way Home had the effect of transferring Vulture and Venom, and maybe others, back and forth between the MCU and the Venom universe. So, it makes sense. It actually does make sense, and I kind of like that they're doing that. It doesn't... I don't know. I mean, if you really go in depth on it, it doesn't make complete sense. Like, the whole thing was that it was bringing the other characters to the MCU. So I don't know why an MCU character would go to a different universe. That part doesn't make sense. But for the most part, you know, I can work with it. But this claim right here actually does coincide with the leaked post-credit scenes, which again, full spoilers if you don't want to know about the post-credit scenes for Morbius, which these are just supposedly, so there's no 100% way of knowing for sure that this is actually true or not. But lining up with what the director said, I'd say it's pretty accurate and is actually pretty interesting. It's weird, but I kind of like where it's going. So again, full spoiler warning, you've been warned. Let's jump into this. There's going to be two post-credit scenes. The first one will open up with the purple rift from the end of No Way Home, showing up with indicating that the multiversal villains are being sent back to their respective universes, and this somehow leads Adrian Toomes being sent from his MCU prison cell to a prison cell in the Morbius universe. Toomes is later freed from prison because they can't incarcerate him, since there are no records of him doing any crimes in this universe. So that right there, that kind of makes sense, but then post-credit scene number 2 is even more interesting. Because Michael Morbius is driving a car heading to a desert where he hears a noise that makes him get out of his car to investigate, and he notices something far away approaching him. It's revealed to be the Vulture, somehow in the MCU suit, but the director actually clarified that it's going to be a new suit that he's somehow managed to put together on his own in this new universe. Vulture then talks to Morbius and tells him he wants to get revenge on Spider-Man, ask him if he would want to join him in his endeavor, and Morbius accepts. So, there's a whole lot going on there. First of all, the fact that Michael Keaton's Vulture's getting a new suit, that's cool. I mean, obviously I love his suit he already has, but to see him get a new upgraded suit, maybe even more comics accurate, would be awesome. And I'm excited to see what it actually looks like, if it's the same colors, all that stuff. So that'll be cool. But the fact that he's inviting Morbius to join the Sinister Six, which is really cool because I really want to see the Sinister Six in the MCU, specifically with Michael Keaton's Vulture, which makes sense now considering that he doesn't know who Spider-Man is anymore. He doesn't know his secret identity after Homecoming and No Way Home and all that stuff. But the only thing confusing to me is why Morbius would accept. Because first of all, how does he know who Spider-Man is? And even if he does know who Spider-Man is, why does he have any reason to want to get revenge on him? I mean, I have seen theories that possibly maybe Morbius, of course, his whole thing, the whole reason he turned himself into a vampire in the first place is because he's trying to find a cure for his rare blood disease. And so maybe you'll find out that, Spider-Man's blood is what can actually give him a cure, kind of similar to what Harry Osborn was trying to do in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So they could do a similar storyline there, and that could be an explanation, or it could literally just be as easy as Michael Keaton's Vulture saying, like, hey, this Spider-Man guy, he's really mean, and stuff, so come help me. And for some reason he accepts. I don't know. I'm interested to see the explanation as to why he would actually accept, but seeing Morbius in an MCU Sinister Six I think would be pretty cool. The only thing about this that's confusing though is, would Vulture go back to the MCU and would Morbius go with him, or are they just stuck in the Venom universe now? I don't know. I honestly do not know at all. It's just so much confusing about this Morbius film that honestly, I'm not sure if it makes me more or less excited to see this film. Honestly, it might be more, just because I'm so intrigued to see what actually happens here, because so much is conflicting here. But guys, let me know your own take on this in the comments below. What do you think about the fact that they have ripped away all of the Spider-Man connections from this film? What do you think about the lack of Michael Keaton until the post-credit scene? What do you think about the connection to the Venom universe and the whole idea of these post-credit scenes with Michael Keaton's Vulture inviting Morbius to join the Sinister Six? So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button.